press briefing. And of course, Mr. Mazi Afam, to you, our communique arising from the 63rd Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association. The 63rd Annual General Conference, with the theme, Getting It Right, charting the course for the Nigeria's nation building, held at the MKO Abiola Stadium in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, from the 25th of August to the 1st of September 2023. There were 16,340 registered conferees. The conference comprised 6 plenary sessions, 21 breakout sessions, 26 speakers, 99 panelists, and 23 moderators. The conference was declared open by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The keynote speaker at the opening ceremony was Mr. Tony Elumelu, Chairman, Board of Governing Council of Tony Elumelu Foundation. I, privileged to be, by the grace of God, the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, delivered the opening address. We received goodwill messages from the President of the Court of Appeal, the Chief Judge, Federal High Court, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, and Minister of Justice. Amongst other dignitaries that were there were the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu. The Governor of Sokoto State was also in attendance. We equally had the Minister of Sports and Youth Development. Similarly, the Minister of Labor was in attendance. Of course, the Chief of Staff to the President accompanied the President to that event. We had also the Emir of Kefi, who represented His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, at that meeting. We had also the Emir of Gubi, His Royal Highness, Honorable Justice L.H. Gumi, OFR, who was a Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory. The working sessions of the conference focused on 3 main themes: of economy, administration of justice, and security. After exhaustive discussions on the papers and extensive deliberations on the themes of the conference rose with the following observations and recommendations. On the economy, the following were the observations. Nigeria's economic potential has been constrained by many structural issues, including inadequate infrastructure, tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, fundamental obstacles to investment, uncertain government policies, and reluctance of previous governments to take the necessary bold steps required to achieve sustained economic growth. The conference expressed disappointment over Nigeria's paradoxical situation of having natural resources that are not adequately harnessed, utilized for Nigeria's industrial development, one of which is clearly seen in the energy sector. Despite substantial gas reserves, the nation is still unable to explore gas to achieve adequate electricity generation. Conference recognizes Nigeria's potential in terms of mineral wealth and human resources, emphasizing the capacity for excellence. However, challenges like power shortages, oil theft, kidnapping, insecurity, and divisions among citizens have prompted the need for robust, long-term economic decisions to revive the economy. Recommendations. Conference resolved that sustained broad-based economic growth and poverty reduction are critical to Nigeria's economic growth and stability. Specifically, conference called on the federal and state governments to refocus efforts on infrastructure development, improve power generation, improve agricultural productivity, and expand jobs in rural areas. There should also be greater attention on youth employment through education, entrepreneurship skills training, and also the funding of the youths towards acquiring knowledge on artificial intelligence. Conference issued a cautionary message highlighting the diminishing relevance of Nigeria's current natural resources in the face of the imperative shift towards renewable energy solutions driven by climate change concerns. It stressed the urgency of embracing the new economic realities of the 21st century that will overshadow the significance of present natural resources. Beneficial policies for the revitalization of the Nigerian economy must be formulated and implemented for the sake of not just the current generation, but for future generations as well. Some of these policies may have consequences that are not immediately comfortable, but will be beneficial for the overall economy and in the long term. Citizens are therefore encouraged to be patient in the renewed hope for the development and growth of the economy of this great nation. The Nigerian Bar Association remains committed to the people of this country in the discharge of our responsibility towards the recovery, the reformation, and the repositioning of this country. And it is the resolve of the conference that this administration of the Nigerian Bar Association would engage with the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that the pursuit of the reformation, the recovery, and the repositioning of this country would be done with the renewed hope agenda of this administration. On the administration of justice, conference observed the need to reform the justice sector has permanently been a subject of national discussion since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999. Several high-level committees were set up by successive administrations to review specific institutions within the justice sector. In particular, the judiciary, police force, and prison service have at several times been subjects of multiple reviews. Many of the problems identified include poor coordination among the different actors in the sector, long delays in hearing cases, lack of effective legal aid to help the poor to access justice, overcrowded prisons, critical allegations of corruption within key institutions, and poor conditions of service across the sector. While the reports of these committees have largely gone unimplemented, there have been many interesting and useful initiatives to improve the justice system. The enactment of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, the Administration of Civil Justice Law in Delta and Ekiti states, Correctional Services Act, the Police Act, the National Human Rights Commissions Act, and the Legal Justice of Nigeria Act are some of the important legislation in aid of justice sector reform. Conference notes that in spite of these developments, there are still formidable challenges ahead to achieve a justice system that works in the interest of Nigerians. Public confidence in the justice system remains at a very low level. Recommendations arising from the conference notes that every aspect of the infrastructure of our justice system requires fundamental rethinking, including our approaches to policing, adjudication, bail, sentencing, and imprisonment. There was also a call for adherence to judicial decisions, adoption and integration of technological advancements for the judiciary, and fostering improved relationships between the different branches of government. Conference specifically frowned at deliberate disobedience of court orders and disrespect for judicial processes. Achieving the desired justice system will be a process, not an event. Nevertheless, change must be accelerated to keep up with the expectations of Nigerians, particularly those of the poorest and the most vulnerable communities. Such change must be properly planned and carefully managed. The importance of a strong, independent judiciary and a holistic approach to justice reforms was emphasized. The conference echoed the need for an urgent review of judicial remuneration and conditions of service. Conference advocated for the separation of the remuneration of judicial officers from the purview of existing commissions and establishment of a distinct agency. This separation is deemed necessary due to the unique circumstances surrounding judicial officers' remuneration, as the existing commission tends to review remuneration collectively without accounting for the judiciary's specific needs. Conference recommends that the federal and state governments extend financial support to pro bono schemes in Nigeria to bolster their effectiveness, that there must be collaborative efforts between the Nigerian Bar Association and other relevant stakeholders to enhance the provision of pro bono services and narrowing the gap in access to justice. It was also specifically resolved at conference that government must make deliberate and conscious investments in all the institutions that are involved in the administration of justice in this country. Security. These were the observations from the conference on security. Conference analyzed the critical issue of national security and its intertwined relationship with economic prosperity and effective administration of justice. Conference acknowledged the severe impact of insecurity on the nation's development and examined the various factors contributing to this challenge. Key observations include the devastating effects of terrorism, non-participation of communities in security efforts, unemployment linked to unrest, and the need for regional cooperation and intelligence sharing. The conference recognized the detrimental role of porous borders, globalization's influence on crime dissemination, inadequate security personnel training, contentious land allocation, indiscriminate release of suspects, and government's inaction against insecurity, the presence of ungoverned spaces, and indeed the impact of climate change on security. Recommendations. Conference identified the need for greater investment in the military, including providing support for civil-military coordination framework, as well as comprehensive endowment framework for critical military facilities and equipment. Conference recommended practical strategies to address security concerns. These include community involvement in policing, youth engagement through job creation, enhanced regional cooperation, media and sensitization, comprehensive police reforms, religious school regulation, strengthening the judiciary and observance of human rights, the adoption of state security forces, proper land management, international resource acquisition, and meticulous implementation of approved plans were also suggested. Conference urged citizens to actively contribute to combating insecurity by being vigilant and speaking up. It called upon the legal community to explore ways of enhancing Nigeria's access to finance to support the fight against insecurity. Overall, the conference underscored the need for comprehensive, multifaceted efforts to address the nation's challenges. Conference recommended legislative interventions to address gaps in the Armed Forces Act and other legal frameworks, enhancing regulations and accountability for military personnel involved in low-intensity conflicts. Conference recommended that military training and operations incorporate human rights studies so that the military observes human rights principles and gain international credibility and uphold its constitutional role in safeguarding citizens. Conference also clearly acknowledged the role of the military in the fight against terrorism, in the protection of the territorial integrity of this country, and in spite of the short supply of personnel and equipment, Conference recognized the efforts of the military to keep a secured nation. The role of the legal practitioner, and we are talking about the members of the legal profession, both on the bench and the bar. Motivated by the statement by Sapara Williams, who said the legal practitioner lives for the direction of his people and for the advancement of the cause of his country. The Nigerian Bar Association in 2023, at the annual General Conference, decided to have a medical outreach in partnership with the Kebbi State government, who decided to take up the cost of the medical outreach. This is because for us to be able, as members of the legal profession, to provide direction to the people of this country, it will be apt to refer to the statement of Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States of America, who said, "Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care." We can, for all we care, speak the best grammar, speak the best of English. If we don't show or claim that we are the learned and the only members of the learned profession, except we show to the people of this country that we care for them, then they will not even bother about what we claim we know. And it is in the abundance of what we know that we can provide direction. So the quickest way to the heart of Nigerians by members of the legal profession who are called to take the lead in giving direction to the people of this country, in advancing the cause of this nation, is for us to begin to demonstrate to Nigerians that we do care for them. It is unlikely that someone for whom you have provided health care for free, that you would mislead that person when you give direction. It is unlikely when you tell such a person to go left, that person will doubt that direction as the best of directives that can be given in that situation. So we decided that we must hold a medical outreach to demonstrate to Nigerians that we in fact do care, and that is to help the legal profession elicit the necessary confidence for us to be able to provide direction to the people of this country. Like I said, the medical outreach is being sponsored by the governor of Kebbi State, Comrade Dr. Idris Nasser Dikaran Gondu, and that medical outreach is still ongoing. It would end on the 7th of September 2023. So far, about 40 lawyers and non-lawyers have enjoyed surgical interventions. We have not less than 3,000 members of the society and some lawyers that also have been seen by doctors, medications dispensed to them. Many have been seen by optometrists and ophthalmologists, glasses, prescription glasses have been issued to them, and medications have been issued to them. Hundreds of them have enjoyed that service. Not less than 500 of our female colleagues and other indigent Nigerians were screened for cervical cancer and mammogram for the females, and not less than 300 males were also screened for prostate cancer. That was made possible by the partnership between the Nigerian Bar Association and Medicaid Cancer Foundation that is chaired by no less a medical practitioner than Dr. Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, the wife of the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. And the medical outreach was made possible by the volunteering gesture by a team of medical practitioners that came all the way from the United States of America, the Moses Lake Medical Team. And we also have the Moses Lake Medical Team Chile that came with about 8 doctors and nurses, amongst which we have, amongst whom we have a urologist, a pediatric surgeon, and Garki Hospital also graciously partnered with us. And it's been Garki Hospital that has provided their operating theaters, their wards for the operations that went through, and for the post-op care that the patients enjoyed. We also have a consultant surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, other doctors and nurses that came from University College Hospital, Ibadan, and they have done some wonderful work, orthopedic surgeries, people that had fractures underwent surgeries, and those have been fixed, and now they are recuperating in the ward of Garki Hospital. We locally have doctors and nurses that came, and pharmacists that came from Kebbi State to support this process. The NYSC also participated in this immensely. We have not less than 15 doctors and nurses that are participating in the medical outreach from the NYSC. Similarly, doctors from members of the Nigerian Medical Association from all over the country, some from Lagos, some from Zaria, and within Abuja are participating in the medical outreach. And for us to be able to deliver on our core mandates as members of the legal practitioners, members of the legal profession, the conference reviewed the legal practitioners' remuneration for Business Legal Service and Representation Order 2023 and the rules of professional conduct of the Nigerian Bar Association and guidelines on anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. These are regulations that were issued under the superintendency of this administration by the immediate past Attorney General of the Federation. And these regulations are meant to properly equip members of the Nigerian Bar Association in the discharge of our primary responsibilities to the people of this country. Conference recommended that ethical charging practices that uphold the integrity and dignity of work of legal practitioners must be followed. The NBA must prioritize comprehensive training to strike a balance between fees and client service, and establish minimum fees for junior lawyers to counter undercutting and implement a robust reporting mechanism for compliance. Conference emphasized the need for advocacy awareness, campaigns, and value delivery for fees, as well as educating the public on the provisions of the new legal practitioner remuneration for business and legal service and representation Order 2023, which provides a framework for ethical charging of fees and transparency. Conference recommended that legal practitioners familiarize themselves with the money laundering rules. The reason the Nigerian Bar Association incorporated the money laundering guidelines and the counterterrorism financing regulations in its rules of professional conduct is because, like I have said severally, and I will repeat it here, the fight against money laundering, counterterrorism financing is a legal fight. Lawyers must be at the vanguard of this fight. And that is why we have taken the initiative to self-regulate ourselves. It is an aberration for a third party, for any institution, be it SCUMO, be it NFIU, be it EFCC or ICPC, to regulate lawyers with respect to our responsibilities in the fight against money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. So to demonstrate to Nigerians our readiness, our preparedness to actually take charge, to lead the vanguard in that fight, we have come together, decided that we would put this in our rules of professional conduct so that it becomes the lifestyle of every legal practitioner to fight money laundering, to fight terrorism financing. Such a situation has now made it a professional misconduct for any lawyer to be found not to comply with those guidelines, in addition to being a crime. And it means that you could lose your practice license if you don't specifically comply with those provisions. The annual general meeting. In addition to reports from national officers, conference received reports of a number of statutory bodies. These are National Human Rights Commission, Council of Legal Education, Legal Aid Council, and the Law Reform Commission. The following resolutions were reached. We had the suspension of constitutional amendment. The proposed constitutional amendment was rejected at the annual general meeting, and so the Constitution, the NBA Constitution 2015 as amended in 2021, was rejected, and that is the proposed amendment to that Constitution was rejected in its totality, while that Constitution remains the subsisting Constitution. AGM also deliberated on the poor funding of statutory bodies. The AGM decried the poor funding of statutory bodies such as the National Human Rights Commission, Legal Aid Council, and the Council of Legal Education, and called for continuous engagement with the Nigerian Bar Association and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation to facilitate proper funding of statutory bodies for effectiveness and performance. The Annual General Conference 2024. AGM resolved that the 2024 Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association would hold from 23rd of August to the 30th of August 2024. The venue is to be determined. The Nigerian Bar Association and the legal profession as a whole must remain unwavering in the pursuit of justice and effective governance. As the voice of the people, the legal community holds the responsibility of ensuring equitable treatment of all, irrespective of their status. Upholding the principle of equality before the law remains paramount. The NBA's influence should extend beyond the courtroom. It must actively contribute to economic growth and stability by advocating for policy adherence to the rule of law in policy making and implementation. To bolster the economy, the legal community should focus on nurturing the judiciary and key regulatory bodies. The conference emphasizes that the outcomes and recommendations from this gathering should be earnestly embraced and executed. The profession's commitment to justice must remain unswerving, unwavering. By doing so, the Nigerian legal sector will stand out globally, acknowledged for its exceptional administration of justice and adherence to legal principles. These recommendations reflect the collective commitment to strengthening legal institutions and promoting justice, human rights, and professional integrity, and with the ultimate goal of getting it right. I must conclude by saying that the success of this country is attributed to the help that we enjoyed from God Almighty, who alone is responsible for keeping us alive, giving us the provision, granting us the wisdom to put together that conference. And I must not fail to give glory to God Almighty alone, as I pray that God Almighty will keep Nigeria together, uphold Nigeria and bring it back to its place of pride amongst the Committee of Nations, help the Nigerian Bar Association discharge its responsibility to the people of this country in providing direction to the people of this nation and also advancing the cause of this country. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. The communique of
the conference, and we would